Seems like just yesterday that Moses, my mentor and God's faithful servant, was leading our people through the wilderness. Now he's gone, and God has passed the baton to me to prepare an untrained, ill-equipped, and vastly outnumbered people to invade Canaan. This is Joshua's log, the story of how God overcame all my fears and all of Israel's inadequacies to divide and conquer Canaan. Joshua's Log, Chapter 1. With our eyes set on the Promised Land, our God, the real captain of our army, briefed me on our operation. It's only by his strength and courage that we will win this war, because he promises to fight for us. Joshua's Log, Chapter 2. I sent 2 agents undercover into Jericho to scout our first target. When they returned, they told me about a civilian named Rahab, who unbelievably, at the risk of her own life, decided to hide them from Jericho's search party. She also mentioned that Jericho is afraid. They've heard stories of how our God fights for us and never loses. Joshua's Log, Chapters 3 through 5. It is our objective to divide Canaan's forces by cutting through the middle of their land. There's just one problem though. The Jordan River is blocking our way. But this is no problem for our God. As soon as our priests holding the Ark of the Covenant stepped into the river, it stopped flowing and formed a towering wall of water to the north. After we crossed over on dry ground, we celebrated by putting together a stone memorial and then prepared ourselves for the first and most important battle in this war. Joshua's Log, Chapter 6. Today's the day. I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. So you can imagine how stunned I was when the Lord issued to me the most unconventional military tactic I've ever heard of. He gave us orders to parade around the walls of the city once a day for 6 straight days, and then 7 times on the 7th day. But rather than protecting ourselves with shields during the march, he armed just 7 of our priests with trumpets. I thought for sure we'd be sitting ducks. I couldn't have been more wrong. With just the sound of our voices and the blowing of our trumpets, the walls of Jericho crumbled before our eyes. Joshua's Log, Chapter 7. Today we suffered our first loss ever to an inferior opponent called Ai. I couldn't figure out why until I learned that one soldier, Achan, had stolen property from Jericho when we instructed him not to. Achan's sin cost us dearly, and it wasn't until I executed both him and his family that the curse was finally lifted. Lesson learned. Joshua's Log, Chapter 8. Our infantry returned to Ai with a new strategy. Pretending to be overwhelmed like before, the enemy chased us out of their city, leaving it completely exposed. We gladly ambushed the city from behind, burned it to the ground, and finished off all unsuspecting enemy troops. Joshua's Log, Chapters 9 and 10. I can't believe I let a group of Gibeonites trick me into an alliance with them, but wouldn't you know it, God turned a really bad judgment call into a military success. Now that we had divided Canaan in 2 and accidentally allied ourselves with the Gibeonites, the southern half of Canaan felt cornered and rallied their armies against Gibeon, forcing us to come to their aid. This battle triggered a series of campaigns across southern Canaan, filled with some very strange phenomena, like giant boulders dive-bombing our enemies out of the blue, or the sun standing still, allowing us to hunt down every hostile in broad daylight. Whatever the case, it was clear the battle for the south was won by God and God alone. Joshua's Log, Chapters 11 and 12. Now that the southern half was defeated, we turned north to finish the job. And even though their forces had superior weapons technology, we still disarmed and destroyed every soldier on that battlefield. Joshua's Log, Chapters 13 through 21. Canaan was ours. So it was time to divvy up the land among our tribes. Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh had already staked their claim to the area east of Canaan. In the meantime, Caleb, one of the 12 who spied out the land 45 years ago, bravely drove out the Anakim giants out of Hebron, proving that no enemy is too big for God. Then Judah, Ephraim, and the other half of Manasseh, along with Benjamin, Simeon, Zebulun, Naphtali, Issachar, Asher, and Dan, settled in Canaan proper. We then assigned 6 cities in our new nation to be safe houses for victims, and designated another 48 cities for the Levites. The battle for Canaan was finally over. Joshua's Log, Chapters 22 through 24. God won this war for us, plain and simple. Still, with everything in place, I keep wondering how long it will last. We must stay faithful to the Lord to see our nation survive in this land. That was exactly what the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh were thinking when they built an altar on their side of the fence. And after some initial confusion, we all agreed we could use a constant reminder to stay the course. But I'm still afraid our people will fail. I don't know if they have the heart to endure. Although I challenge them one last time to stay loyal to the Lord, I know I can't keep my people faithful. They need something else. They need someone else.